This time on Watchers of Tomorrow, Wesley becomes a geologist.
Hello, welcome to Watchers of Tomorrow, the sci-fi critique and review show that could save you but probably won't bother. My name is Gep, and I'm joined as always by my friend and co-host Dr. Isix.
Hi.
And this week we have the good look at the Prime Directive, even though a lot of the rest of the episode is kind of iffy.
Yeah. We have an actual discussion of things and try to look into some of the underlining sort of thoughts on it. Hooray.
I think it's interesting because I remember a lot of this episode as being kind of weird and cringy and kind of off, and it was always one of my family's least favorite episodes, and I can see why. But it's one of the ones that actually talks about something.
Yes. As opposed to, well, here's some things that happened, and at the end of the episode.
So this is the episode called Pen Pals. Data gets a pen pal.
Someone who's far away to communicate with and become friends with, and decide, maybe I don't want them to die. That's how pen pals work, right?
Yeah.
All right.
That's mostly, yeah. From the American perspective, yes. I have a pen pal in a country that is probably being bombed to hell, especially in the late 80s when this was written. And I now have political consciousness because I've been exposed to someone outside of American imperialistic bubble.
Indeed. I do recall the Simpsons sort of drawing a circle about around that particular thing where I think it was Lisa who was doing a pen pal thing with someone in a faraway country, and it's like, our country's been taken over by the great General Zal. It's like, signed Little Girl.
This particular episode was written by Hannah Lewis Shear, who wrote When the Bow Breaks, and did rewrites for Coming of Age and Skin of Evil, and also worked on We Will Always Have Paris. So it's an interesting track record you got going there.
Indeed. And we'll also be back for sure for Deep Space Nine for QLS.
Which that's fun.
Yeah.
It's not the best Q episode. But...
Yeah, it is. I don't want to say charming, but just kind of weird fluff, I guess.
Yeah. You gave Q an excuse to do Q things.
Yes. She'll also be back for The Price. Don't remember what that one's about.
Something with Ferengis, I think.
Oh, is that the wormhole one?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a good one. I like that one. All right, co-stars. We have co-stars, because not only is there an alien, we have this whole, one of these little science teams that supposedly the Enterprise is just crawling with.
Science team. Oh no, I'm having flashbacks to Dr. Coomer screaming something, but anyway.
So, first we got Nicholas Castone, who plays Davies. He's appeared in the Titanic and the West Wing and Dragonfly, and returns to Star Trek for DS9. He's been all kinds of places. He just gets around, this dude.
The Jake Effect, The Cell, so Duncan, Jack, and Jane. What? But I believe it's Cascone.
Is it? Yeah, Cascone. Probably pronounced that badly.
No worries.
Cascone. Yeah, that looks Italian.
Dragonfly. Charmed for an episode. The Agency.
The agency of what?
I don't know. Maybe it's about having agency.
Yeah, you have agency. Good job.
You can make your own decisions in life. Good work.
That could be an interesting. It's a TV show that's a very boring sitcom, but it's slowly about the characters becoming self-aware.
It's like, why do we keep running into these weird, bizarre situations? It's like every week there's a new one. I'm just so tired of it.
Then we have Anne H. Gillespie, who is playing Hildebrandt.
Gillespie.
Gillespie. Yeah. Anne H. Gillespie, who's playing Hildebrandt. She started acting in, what is this? Ryan's Hope? I don't know what that is. Sometimes I take these notes like it's going to mean something to me later.
And I'm guessing it's maybe 147 episodes, so I'm guessing some sort of daytime show?
A lot of people from this era got started in soap operas.
Yeah.
So probably that. And then is best known for playing Jackie Taylor on Beverly Hills 90210.
Indeed. Yeah, there's been in a few other random things like ER, Diagnosis Murder, that sort of thing.
It was just in the first 2 seasons of 90210, which I think is distinct from Beverly Hills 90210.
It's like a sequel. It's like happened 8 years later, I guess.
I'm not sure. Yeah. I've not paid any attention to these things other than knowing it as that show with the numbers.
Yes. It's like the Beverly Hills version, at least, is like about some high schoolers in a rich area, I guess, having drama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rich people with drama. but like, I think before they invented the soap opera and they replaced that rich people with drama with reality TV.
Oh, no.
Because then that would just be the Hills.
Yes. Because now we have rich people drama that is reality TV.
Then we've got Whitney Rydbeck, who plays Alan's very prolific TV and movie actor with over 50 shows. I'm not going all over, but they include Disney's Wonderful World of Color. And Buck Rogers and Scrubs and Oliver and Company. And, Friday the 13th, Part 6.
The picture I keep seeing from here is from MASH, and he was like in only one episode, so I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Sleeper. Love at First Bite.
Vampires?
Yep. Rocky 2, 1941. American War Comedy. Jason Lives.
Murder, She Wrote.
A very Brady sequel.
Barely remember what happens in that one.
Wait, what is this? Angels with Angels? Or Angels with Angles? Angles with Angels?
Angular Angels, maybe.
Yeah, what angles could do they mean like they're scheming?
Maybe they're in Los Angeles.
Maybe. All right, finally, the only important person in this episode. All those other people are side characters. The only important actor in this entire episode.
The person who's has the most makeup as well.
Yeah. Nikki Cox is playing Sarjenka, who's the resident alien of the episode. Our
alien that we have to have a dilemma about.
She's been acting since she was 4 in shows like Baywatch, Mama's Family, and Blossom. Mm-hmm. She later got a leading role as the daughter in Unhappily Ever After. She starred in The Norm Show, which I don't think took off as much as they wanted it to.
No.
And she was the titular character in the show Nikki.
It's Nikki White. Yeah, hasn't been doing too much since 2011, but, has a lot of credits all the same, and was in General Hospital for a good while as Gina.
She's been around. I think it's fun that she was just this random weird alien and then went on to all these sitcoms.
Yes. Was in Sister, Terminator 2 in Erie, Indiana. You remember that show?
Indiana. No, I don't remember that show.
So it's like the X-Files, but you're a kid, and you only live in one town, and all the weird stuff comes to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Today's episode, the optometrist is mind-bending people. Oh, no.
Interesting.
In this episode...
They have that thing like in Buffy where they are like, actually, this weird little nowhere town is over a really important demonic thingy. That's why everything interesting in the world happens here.
I don't remember. It just kept... There was just a lot of weird stuff that just kind of happened. And, because you're kids, you can't be like murdering people about it, usually. Right?
Well, probably. Unless it's a very different kind of show.
Yes. This was trying to be kid-friendly here. It was the 90s.
All right, we're going to have actual things to talk about with this episode, so we may as well get going.
Mm-hmm.
So the Enterprise is exploring the Secundy Dreams. This can't be right. They wrote Secundy Dreams. That cannot be what it's called.
No. I recall something about like maybe the Secundus quadrant or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Secundus something, but I think the second word just got autocorrected. But I do like it. We're in the dream sector.
I like that. Maybe they should do that more often.
Yeah, I don't know. It's made up words. It's the made up word sector of the Federation. It's a part of space where there are 5 star systems that have unusual levels of geologic instability. So much so that since the last time they sent a probe to this area, several of the planets have broken up and formed asteroid belts.
Huh. That's a little unusual. Wait a moment. Broken up planets, asteroid belts. Is there a doomsday machine wandering around?
Well, I didn't have a great way to work this into the thing, but Riker has my favorite, like, scientific line ever. Like, Worf looks at all this and goes, "Could this be an unknown intelligence?" And Riker says, "It's geology, not malevolence."
Now, I'm not convinced of that, Riker, but go ahead.
Yeah, it could not. Maybe it could be. I don't know. I'm in the middle of reading the 5th season, the Broken Earth series, in which that is exactly what's happening. Geology is malevolent.
Or it could be a malevolence that kicked off something and then geology took over.
No, it's both in this book.
But... Oh, okay. Evil geology.
Yeah, that's kind of the entire series. It's a 3-book series about evil geology. It's really good. I'd really, really recommend it. So meanwhile, Picard has apparently nothing to do, so he and Troy are on their way to the holodeck, where Picard is going to do some riding because he's a horse girl.
So this kind of kicks off a bit of a trend in terms of various Enterprise captains being all about horses.
Yeah, apparently the Enterprise is just the ship where you put the horse girls.
Yes. So, apparently Patrick Stewart wasn't super, keen on, riding a horse. Picard's all about it, but, the actor isn't. And so when they eventually get to Star Trek Generations, he's interacting with William Shatner, who's like, yeah, I've ridden horses a lot. I'm going to, teach you how to, not be scared of the horse. So, yeah.
The funny thing with that is he is all about the motor vehicles. Mm-hmm. Like, they could not keep him out of that dune buggy when they were filming. When they were filming Nemesis.
It's time for another donut.
So anyway, Picard's a horse girl, which I contend is a gender-neutral term, and we should be using it more often. He has the computer make him a horse, and then he talks about the bond between rider and animal, etc. Before he gets to have any fun, Riker calls him to the bridge, because they have the first visual from the system that they're approaching.
Well, this is just kind of awkward timing here. All right, let's head up to the bridge.
So they get to see a planet that had a thriving ecosystem last time they were here and is now just a primordial lava world.
Well, this seems kind of bizarre, honestly, that all this is just happening, at the same time with all these various planets in the same area. Huh.
Yeah, it is a little odd. So this is somewhat laid-back mission. Not much going on, apparently, not very important. Riker has the idea of putting Wesley in charge of the planetary survey team so that he gets a big job as team lead and gets to learn stuff and boss senior officers around, etc.
Well, that will hopefully give him some confidence about being in charge, and maybe a chip on his shoulder as a result, because he's like, hey, I'm now better than all these other officers, not just the command crew.
So they tell Wesley the news, and he is just weirdly indifferent. Okay.
Some of that is, I sort of read that, it could be he's just being really awkward. It's like, I came into the room where everyone who's in, a big wig on the ship is, looking at me, and this is weird. Alternatively, maybe he's not actually enthusiastic, but feels he needs to be. It's like, oh, hooray, geology. I'm someone who studies warp fields.
Meanwhile, Data's working on something which entails taking half of a bridge console apart and leaving it all over the floor.
Which annoys Worf.
Is annoyed.
Yeah. And I do kind of appreciate that this is a, all right, of all the places where you could be doing something like this, you have to do it right here at this particular console on the bridge. Because apparently there's no, labs somewhere else on the ship where you can sort of do stuff like this.
I know, visually, the way this ship is put together doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, why? This is a readout. This is an input-output display. Mm-hmm. Why are the fundamental internal workings of the sensor array in it? What is in there that is making the sensors function? It's a keyboard and a monitor.
I guess maybe that normally this keyboard and monitor doesn't talk to the right parts of the ship in any, direct connection. And so maybe he has to reroute a whole bunch of stuff. And maybe he had to install some sort of special radio tuner as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, basically what he's doing here, he says he's trying to detect things outside of the sensor's normal range, and fine. But as we find out later, the thing that he's really doing is just reinventing ham radio.
Yes. So apparently in the future, they don't listen to certain frequencies of the electromagnetic spectrum, so just turn on the radio and start listening, and then, see what we can pick up.
So Wesley goes around and gets advice on team building. Basically, everyone says, stop worrying. Everyone on this ship is a professional, and they are going to do their jobs.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good advice,
Yeah.
If there is a problem, then come to us if you need direct advice, but don't start, pre-worrying about problems that don't exist yet.
Which I think is just a great message in general of, like, this is a work environment where you can trust everyone is going to do their damn jobs without too much of an ego. Mm-hmm. Like we treat people good and they do the things, and all of the best people are here. Yeah. So no, they're not we ordered them to take orders from you, and that's what they're going to do.
Yeah. And, if there is a problem, they know that they're going to be violating their orders to me or from me, if they violate the orders from you. So, there's still a enforced hierarchy of the command structure to be applied here. So why are you worrying about this?
Mm-hmm. Data is in his quarters now because he was annoying people on the bridge. He's detected an old school radio signal coming from one of the planets that they're surveying. When he cleans it up and amplifies it, it becomes a little girl's voice asking if anybody is out there.
Is there anybody out there? Is there anybody out there?
Meanwhile, Wesley's organized his team. He's got Davies, the most senior, even offering to take over if Wesley gets in over his head, but in a teasing way. Like, I really like the dynamics here because Wesley is just like freaking the hell out about this, and everybody's just teasing him and messing with him a little bit, but in a very professional way. It's like, hey, I'll take over. Don't worry.
Yeah, if you want to not do this, I can do this, but you're still in charge, so
they get started fine. Wesley seems to actually be a pretty good team leader, but he apparently wants them to run some sort of ecogram scan of the planet search for the lithium. Davies and the team go, that could be a waste of time, and he sort of caves, even though really they're just giving him general advice. It's like, this is a complicated, heavy, resource intensive thing. Are you sure that's what you want us to do?
Yeah, it's like, we could be doing a whole bunch of other things you want us to do, so make sure you want this to be done.
Mm-hmm. Sometime later, apparently, we got some time skips in this episode that aren't very clearly communicated.
Mm-hmm.
Data searches out Picard, who is finally getting to ride his damn horse.
Yep. Now, I do believe this is said to be 6 weeks after some of the other stuff was resolved with Wesley, but yeah.
Yeah. It says it's 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Or who knows when Wesley started his team. It's hard to say. I don't know.
Yes.
That's why I'm saying, there seems to be some time jumping in here that I don't know if the Data storyline is time jumping and the Wesley one isn't, if all this stuff is assumed to be contiguous, what's happening?
Who knows?
But anyway, Data goes, hey, I've been talking to a random alien on one of the planets for 8 weeks. They don't know about interstellar life, and her entire people are in extreme danger and are going to die, and I thought you should know that I've kind of been breaking Starfleet regulations.
Yeah, so, don't mind that. We have a dilemma to worry about, right? Yeah, I'm not going to get in trouble for this, right?
So Picard calls a meeting of the entire senior staff.
Yeah. So everyone come to my quarters, not the conference room, because we don't want this to be official.
Apparently, while that's happening, Wesley interrupts Riker's date because kid has no chill.
Poor Riker.
Yeah. He needs some more advice on command. Riker says that you just need to ask yourself what Picard would do, because when Picard wants something done, no one's questioned him. And that's the real trick, Once you decide what you want to do, nobody's going to question you.
Yes. I guess there's also the other subtext when you think about Wesley and Picard's specific relationship with regard to Wesley's dad as well. So if he overthinks this could be really awkward. Have someone on your team get killed, and you have to go talk to your mom about it. So anyway, that's depressing.
Well, we know that's his biggest fear because of the test thing.
Indeed.
So he's going to order this scan and it's going to blow up on somebody. He's like, oh my god.
And there's going to be a guy who doesn't want to get up and move across the room slightly as a result, and he's going to die. And then there's going to be an admiral who shows up and is like, congratulations, Wesley. He's going to be like, what the heck's going on here, guys?
So Wesley immediately runs back to his team, tells them to run that scan he wanted, and they go, yep, you got it, boss.
Mm-hmm. Maybe in the meantime, the team was like, we probably should have run that scan because there's a lot of weird stuff going on here.
Then meanwhile, Riker is called off to talk to Data about what he's been up to. So the situation stands thusly. Data's made contact with a small girl from a planet that is about to die, killing her entire civilization. But this is a pre-contact, pre-warp society, so they cannot help because of the Prime Directive.
Indeed. So, as they say in some contexts, we can watch the show, but, can't lift a finger about it.
Mm-hmm. So Riker goes, yep, that's the Prime Directive. We have to follow that and do this, etc. That seems odd for his character. That's the impulsive, I try to do the right thing type of person. But,
there is, I guess, maybe a sign that he has, certain rules that are sort of underlying despite the impulsiveness there. And alternatively, this could be one of those moments where he's sort of becoming Elder Riker, who is a bit more reserved and a bit more, steady in his habits there because, Jonathan Frakes became more of a director as opposed to an actor over time.
Pulaski wants to help, damn the consequences, and Worf really, truly does not care.
Yes. Worf is fairly consistent in terms of his sort of view on the rules that, you follow the rules. That's part of meeting your duty, and meeting your duty is honorable, even if the rules are, weird or horrific in some way. So, to avoid that, that whole sort of moral dilemma, you just don't think about it.
So they explore what they've got here. The whole argument is basically, if you start interfering, when do you stop? You can stop a natural disaster. Okay, what if you find a plague or a war or a dictatorial government that's killing a lot of people?
What level do you want to be, coming into to be the magical saviors here, or and at what level do you just let them, get themselves killed or kill themselves or get killed by somebody else?
They also have a weird loophole that isn't talked about much in the Prime Directive. They can help if they are asked directly to help by anybody. But this is a small child who doesn't understand she's talking to aliens.
Yes. So, but still there's a way to interpret what is being said as a specific request here, and thus you can help.
So Picard orders Data to disconnect the signal. During the process, the computer plays back her pleas, basically, her recorded messages that Data hasn't been listening to. And she's basically like, hey, come back. Everything's awful. And Picard's like, well, shit, that's kind of a plea for help, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I guess we can do something now, and jeepers, I feel guilty if I don't. So let's go do the thing.
Thankfully for all of them, Wesley's big complicated scan has revealed that these planets have an intensely large amount of dilithium that has formed on the planet's surface in such a way that it has essentially become a giant dilithium generator.
Yeah. So I want to sort of talk about this specifically right here for a few moments. that that you have in these planets this dilithium structure. They describe it as forming into a specific sort of lattice, and it's causing this energetic effect and destroying the planets as a result. And it's like, okay, so there might be just a general increase in dilithium in this part of the galaxy. That could potentially happen. But also, all of these planet breakups are happening roughly at the same time in terms of, geological scales here. So it's, to me, very, very, very suspicious that this is just happening to all happen at the same time here. So it sort of, to me, implies that either that there is something in the distant past that created a lot of dilithium simultaneously that just happened to get embedded on all these planets, or potentially someone actually did go about and seed these planets with dilithium or the process to make it in order to come back later and harvest it on geological timescales potentially, and that they'd be effectively self-harvesting in a way that they would break up the planet around them, leaving that delicious dilithium behind for them just to sweep in and pick up. But
so the aliens are going to show up later, like, whoa, what's life doing here? Yous wasn't supposed to evolve on our generator mining world.
Dang it, guys! And so this is opening up a possibility to all sorts of crazy stuff going on here in the larger universe, but we don't have to worry about this episode because we're actually mostly focused on the Prime Directive stuff from here on out.
Yeah, well, this is a Prime Directive episode, and that would be a renewable energy episode.
Yes.
That would be a human cost of mining and energy infrastructures.
Yeah, and so I will give them props for not trying to do all sorts of different things simultaneously, but this is an opportunity for a follow-up if any people that write for Star Trek, are listening here, which is probably not true.
I just imagine the episode where some dire representatives of a hyper-advanced society show up and go, if you do not let us harvest the dilithium from this planet, it will kill billions when this world contains only thousands.
So you want to murder people either way? Maybe you're the bad guys.
Anyway, Wesley's team is working out a way to stop the planetary breakup. Because, now they know what's going on.
Yeah, and, we could potentially do this to all the remaining planets that are, showing this effect here. And, maybe if we run into a planet down the road that has something similar going on, we could also, it's like, this is how you solve this problem. So, oh no, the Federation colony over here suddenly has this problem. Well, now we don't have to worry about it. Hooray!
So, Data has calculated the safest place on the entire planet. Picard decides that, you know what, we've gone this far, you may as well tell the kid how to get her and her family to safety. But the atmospheric instability has blocked the signal. Data requests to beam down to the planet and deliver the message personally. That does seem like you're going a bit far there, like logically. You've kind of jumped from, we're doing this wibbly magic science thing in space that no one will ever really know about until like they're advanced enough to understand their own geologic history and go like, wait, something weird happened here.
Yes. But Dana wants to go and deliver the message that we're here and we're here to help. So,
yeah.
And, technically he was ordered to do that, so can't go back on the orders now.
So Data beams down to a living room sort of place with a big disappearing wall, door, window sort of area.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity for green screen.
Yeah, looks out into violent lava flows and volcanoes and etc. The place is empty, but soon after Data arrives, a young alien girl returns. This is Sarjinka, who was here to get her transmitter so that she would be there if Data tried to contact her again. Mm-hmm. Data decides that they're not really going to be able to survive getting back to her family, so he beams them back to the ship.
So, so you don't need the translator, the transmitter anymore, but hey, at least you met up with Data, so
yeah.
Time to go on a crazy sci-fi adventure, kid.
So now on the bridge, it's really hard to tell if Picard is more upset that this is a pre-contact alien that is now on board his hyper-advanced spaceship she under no circumstances can learn about, or if it's because there's a kid here.
There is good arguments to be made on either one of those, honestly.
So she tries to get taken to sick bay, but she won't leave Data, so he needs to stick with her the entire time.
Mm-hmm. All right. You could sort of stand by me while I save your planet. Hold on, kid.
So the rest of these teams come up with a plan to shoot resonators into the planet that will break up the dilithium and stop the geologic instability. This works. Planet calms down. Everything's fine now. You know, that much geologic activity and ash and whatever certainly won't create a nuclear winter that will upset the environment for generations.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those things where, the clouds just clear and everything's fine because, all the volcanoes stopped instantly.
So Data takes her to sick bay where she finds a fun rock. Pulaski drugs her and begins to remove her memories so that she can just live her normal life as if they've never met.
Now, I'm going to talk about this later, just FYI.
So Data returns her and her rock back home, so she'll wake up and go, where did this weird rock come from?
Yes. Maybe I found it while looking for, my home in all this lava fields here,
And when he comes back to the ship, he tries to apologize to Picard. But Picard goes, all you did was remind us that we have obligations to other life, and that remembering people like Sarjenka, even though she won't remember us, is just part of being human.
All right, this is a little confusing, but okay. I guess Data is becoming more human now.
Now let's go deal with those drug addicts I decided not to do anything about.
And so, yeah, that's where we kind of end things here.
So yeah, it's kind of stupid. It's this whole Data's whole weird, like, I've got to help a child because I'm unemotional thing's a little weird and janky, and the kid is like too sickeningly sweet.
Yes. Though I will say that maybe one of the reasons Data kind of, started ignoring the Prime Directive himself, even after sort of figuring out, this kid probably doesn't know about space travel, might come down to his ethical program, which is kind of one of those, deep parts of his programming that, underlies a lot of what, his decision-making process is on things. Mm-hmm. And so, it could be very much a case of that's overriding his, sense of duty and following the rules sort of stuff here in a very, thing we've already covered sort of thing, but takes place later sort of way.
Yeah, your ethical subroutines are too strong to deal with this weird arbitrary rule that they mostly made up for story justification for why the supposed good guys don't use all of their vast resources to help people.
Yes. I will give the I guess the general evolution of that some credit that, having the Prime Directive as a means to discourage the horrors of colonialism by, Starfleet and the Federation, that's kind of a good way to sort of take it. You don't want to be going out there and basically, pushing around, civilizations with less technology than you, and exploiting them and that sort of thing. So having a general rule of, you just don't interact with these folks here, let them sort of get on their own way. That's seems like a very reasonable sort of thing to do.
Well, it's really interesting to look at this as a product of the late 80s, because this is the era, just after the end of the Cold War. The Cold War had been winding down for quite a while at this point. Mm-hmm. And we, as Americans, suddenly have to deal with the fact that all of these proxy wars and instilling democracy everywhere and all this stuff didn't necessarily turn out as well as we thought it would.
Yes, especially when we did the opposite in terms of democracy.
Yeah. So
we're instilling Western values, by getting rid of their democracy because they were voting for too many communists.
Yeah, except in somewhere like Japan, where instilling democracy and capitalism worked too well, and then at this point we were like, oh no, they're taking over the world.
We have to fear the foreigners. Which ones is this decade? Japan's doing economically well. Them, yeah.
So overall, this Prime Directive idea, as it's explained, they don't explain it well in this episode. They have this, like, at what point do we stop helping, which I also have a point to make about, but like they never have a decent argument for why they shouldn't help people. They just cannot construct one.
Yes.
But the general thing that they say is they have a little bit of the we shouldn't instill our values on people anti-colonialism vibe. And they also have the explanation from the earlier episode, which is no matter how good of intentions you have, it can always turn out badly if you try to help someone. And coming from this late 80s perspective, you can look at what that was meant to communicate, which is we, as Americans, had this noble pursuit of instilling Western values and democracy in all of these poor, struggling countries and defending them from communism. And that turned out bad. Therefore, even the best intentions can turn out horribly.
I will also, sort of, point out that, there's been sort of, after that, a little bit of a back and forth in terms of the political moods of things. That, there was a very strong impulse, at least in terms of advertising from the neoconservative sort of movement in the early 2000s, was like, maybe we should be instilling democracy and things like that because, trying to step back has been horrible and stuff. And no, we don't know how to actually do that, but trust us.
Well, the particular problem that I see with this argument in either direction is this just generalized idea that that was the justification that the U.S. government was using for doing all of these things during the Cold War and then immediately after. But that's not actually what was being done. That was not, in fact, the intention.
Yes.
So
which,
the idea...
including the neoconservative, example I just mentioned there. Like, that was the excuse being floated for we want to have a unipolar, polar or multipolar sort of structure to our world in terms of major powers, and having some collection of client states that are the democracy nations means that we have particular puppets out there that are all banded together under the name of democracy, and that's how we're going to control other countries.
Yeah, this is basically new imperialism.
Yes.
Right? We're not running these places as sub-empires. They're not colonies. They're not part of the grand American system, except for Puerto Rico and American Samoa and all those places we don't talk about. But we aren't doing empire, we're doing democracy building. It just so happens that all of these now poor countries that are outside of the what political theorists are now calling the imperial core countries, or the West as we generally colloquialize it, just happen to be now in a place where they have to funnel all of their money and resources into the imperial core.
Indeed. So, it's like, we'll give you lots of loans to do all that stuff that you've been struggling to get done now because we haven't been helping at all, or, running counter to what you want to be doing. But now you're not massively in debt to us, so you have to pay us money just kind of because.
So a lot of these things, and I understand the political mindset of the 80s was very much we're looking at our stuff a little bit critically, but it's so halfway because like this didn't turn out well. The reason it didn't turn out well is because no matter your intentions, it can always turn out badly. Not maybe we lied about our intentions.
Yeah. It's like, oh.
So extrapolating that into this idea that trying to help someone with good intentions will always turn out badly, instead of maybe you should examine your intentions.
Indeed. I'm reminded of Angel 1 there. That, they were going to a planet to do a thing, and they described this planet specifically as a mid-20th century technological level that they've already had lots of contact with.
Yeah.
And I'm just sort of thinking, so you're basically admitting in the episode that you want this planet to eventually become part of the Federation. And so you're going to interact with them in a certain way, and in the hopes that they will, eventually sort of bend to your, general ideology and sign up to join your empire. Okay. I guess that makes clear what your actual intentions are, but now you're talking about the Prime Directive for the rest of the episode. We can't interfere, and we're going to have dilemmas about things if we're going to be trying to, save these people's lives here. So, we are hiding behind the Prime Directive in order to let them murder people.
Well, the Prime Directive is a weird justification for that,
Yeah.
given the way that they've talked about in the rest of the show, because we have that now.
Mm-hmm.
If an American citizen does something wrong in another country, we tend to respect that country's laws, more or less, depending on whether we like the country or not.
Yes.
But that's the general idea, is like, if someone does something in that country's jurisdiction, we don't have a right to come in and tell them they're doing it wrong.
I guess, in that particular sort of example, it's very much a case, like that. But they're also doing big circles as like, the reason we're doing this is because we are enlightened, more enlightened than you guys are, and you need to be on that side of things.
But I would also argue that a lot of the arguments that they're using in this episode also are not holding up well, just because of the level of magic technology we have reached here. And they're not actually examining their intentionality at all. They're saying our intention is that we'll do a good thing and then it will always turn out badly. But the examples that you're taking from history to work this out are almost exclusively America sent a bunch of guns somewhere and then somehow that didn't turn out well.
Yes. So a private little war, over and over again, and
Yes.
whoops.
And now the thing that you have with the discussion of how far do we go? Can we save them from a natural disaster? Should we save them from a plague? Should we save them from an evil government or a war? It's like, if your intention, which they keep saying in the Prime Directive, their intention is to not interfere with the natural evolution of another culture or society. Which means if you can prevent an entire population from being randomly killed without them ever knowing about it, you didn't exactly interfere with their natural evolution, aside from the fact that you kept them from all being dead.
Yes.
Which you do have arguments of scale in that. A lot of, evolution as a biological measure, not a political measure necessarily, but some of that too, is so influenced by random chance. The best adapted animal on the entire planet could have just happened to have been hit by a random rock, and there's no way to evolve around that.
Yes. I suddenly, without having any generations of descendants to come up with this, have evolved to be immune to high velocity objects coming at my head. Wait, that doesn't actually exist. I'm dead.
Could happen, but the possibility of that being a useful evolutionary, thing that would keep herself around are pretty slim.
Maybe it's smarter to be able to avoid predators, or be able to eat things that other folks can't. So we have an exclusive food source here. Stuff like that. Filling niches as opposed to being immune to all things forever.
Like Cambrian explosion. Everyone loves the Cambrian explosion. All those weird things with too many eyes and tubes coming out of their faces.
Trilobites, oh gosh.
Seems like a decent amount of those things got wiped out in one really bad mudslide.
Yeah. We've got a lot of crazy stuff here, and then suddenly, our environment changed slightly. Who's left? That guy. All right, he has like some fins or something like that. I guess
so you have a scale. You have a scale issue. If you're saying, how much of this planet do we save? If you're saying there's going to be a natural disaster that's going to kill everyone on this one continent, that might be that arguably could be interfering with the natural evolution of a society, because now you have this giant group of people that would not have otherwise existed on this planet doing things.
Indeed.
But when you're definitely when you're talking about an entire world's population dying off, like that's it. That's the end of their natural evolution.
Yeah. You can't evolve once you are dead, which, maybe they should say specifically sometime in Star Trek.
Yeah. And there are some interesting arguments to be had. There's even people arguing now over like conservation efforts for endangered or near extinct animals. Like, we as humans are coming in and trying very, very hard to maintain the status quo as we as humans see it, which is the way the world has existed for the last couple of thousand years while we've been around. And I guess thinking about nature in that way, which has been 500-600 years. But while I personally think that we just have to do whatever we as humans morally think is going to work out, because otherwise you're getting into some weird can we predict the future shit, there is in fact a very viable argument to say that as an environment changes, some species just die out, and that's just how evolution functions.
Which I guess then begs the question, when can we be certain that that's going to be what's going to happen? If we were not here to interfere, that is. One way or another.
Well, like if you... Either direction. Right now we're saying, well, we caused this problem, so we should do something to mitigate the damage, and that's our prerogative as like the animals, thinking animals, involving ourselves in these things. But that's not necessarily the de facto moral argument that you could go to. You could say that regardless of why an environmental change happens, environmental changes perpetuate a new homeostasis, and that is just what is happening.
And so, in that case, we can chop down all the trees and it's going to be fine because, what is left over is going to be, the new homeostasis, and that is A-okay.
Well, the thing is that it's not going to be fine from a human perspective, because the thing that we always forget about homeostasis is that the world does not balance itself with us in mind.
Indeed. So even with this, particular argument, it does then follow up. It's like, all right, do we have a place in this new status quo?
And I'm not saying that I believe it to be a good argument. I would say that we should do the things that we as people feel are the right thing to do, because that's how people work.
Yes.
I feel like trying to justify it as a natural course of decision-making becomes the problem.
Yes. In fact, I'd argue that a lot of appealing to natural order sort of arguments tend to be dubious in various ways, because then you kind of... Who decides what that natural order is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you have all these weird... People will almost exclusively focus on the negative outcomes of things in a way to try to justify inaction. Like, if we take the Prime Directive example, if we save this planet, that could create the next super Hitler who goes out and destroys every world in the immediate vicinity. Like, yeah, it could, but it could also be the dude who cures intergalactic cancer. Like, we don't know. You're doing some weird future predicting at that point, and deciding that you're responsible for the outcome of a person that you saved the life of.
So it's kind of, taking away their, their decision-making process entirely, that you are now making people who make individual decisions, for sure, automatons that will be progressing forward from your decision, and you are the only one who is capable of making decisions in this. So,
Well, you're also very much excusing colonialism and imperialism as just one moral option of how to fix a society. Right? The fact that you're kind of comparing humanitarian aid, which is a lot of what they'd be talking about here, saving a continent from a super volcano, is basically an extreme form of humanitarianism that is facilitated by the advanced technology at these people's disposal. Mm-hmm. So saying that you're going to do that you aren't going to do that because it interferes with the natural evolution, and you comparing that to the evils of colonialism, are basically saying like saving someone from a natural disaster is the same thing as coming in, uprooting their society, and telling them you're going to like kill and enslave them if they don't adhere to your belief system.
Which is a little absurd, to put it bluntly. And, kind of comparing apples to kumquats here, or maybe kiwi fruit, or maybe a rock.
It is reasonable to assume when you're dealing with these like pre-contact societies, the thing that you're trying to avoid is not in fact this like culture, like interfering with cultural evolution. You're trying to avoid an extreme form of cultural contamination, which is a pretty good idea. But you've taken that to such an extreme to say, like, if we can prevent this person's planet from blowing up in a way that they will never know about, that is not the same thing as cultural contamination or colonialism.
Yes. I think how Stargate SG-1 actually has a fun way, a fun episode where they sort of do this from the opposite perspective of the folks, trying to solve a major problem but can't, and the very powerful species out there that could interfere isn't, because to do so would culturally contaminate things, because various things that are happening in the episode, and so the episode has the team doing this big project to try to fix the problems. Like, the chances of this are very slim, but it's the best thing we got, and we are kind of the ones who caused this to happen in the first place, so we're putting all our effort in, and by doing this effort, even though it would technically fail, it gives the all-powerful aliens enough a plausibility that, it just happened to work, to sort of do things without effectively coming in here and contaminating the culture, and giving the locals this idea that there's an all-powerful alien species out there that could just save us whenever, and so they sort of avoid all that sort of side effects there, and it's sort of a fun bit of plausible deniability being at play here. But that's also very much a specific sort of case where, there is reasons that the cultural contamination would happen given the circumstances. But if you are in a situation where you don't have those specific circumstances, then what's the problem? Why not just save the planet?
Well, that one I remember specifically was a treaty violation.
Yeah.
They had a problem because they couldn't help the planet, because that would let the evil people come in and also do stuff to the planet.
Yes. So it's a prime directive by a different sort of avenue of justification.
Well, the one that they have I'm forgetting the name now, but they do have the stand-in for the Federation in Stargate, which always leads to some very interesting episode interactions. Where they have the hyper-advanced human society that could very easily solve all of humanity's problems at a stroke, but they have a very, very strict rule of non-interference with other cultures.
Yeah.
And now it's basically all of those episodes are basically like, the Federation, their prime directive. How much would it suck if you were on the other end of that?
Yes. So we're just going to get all murdered and enslaved by these other aliens here, because...
It's like, you're going to watch our entire planet be destroyed because you think giving us technology would just lead to our downfall.
Huh.
At some, arbitrary time in the future.
Yes.
It's like, better to let you all die now than let you kill yourselves later, am I right?
Thanks. Sort of another aside, there was an episode of Babylon 5 that kind of made fun of the technologically superior and culturally superior nonsense as well, where the aliens that showed up were like, we will only make treaties with folks that we deem to be on the same level as us, so that's why we're here to observe, and we will not interfere, so try to appeal to us so that we can be convinced that you are someone we can actually interact with.
It's like the day the Earth stood still.
Yeah. Yeah, you can blow yourselves up all you like. Just don't, bother us about it.
I still maintain that, like, you could do a really, really interesting sci-fi show about a hyper advanced civilization that goes around and has to solve all of these problems on other planets with a strict non-interference policy. Like, that would be such an interesting way to frame a thing. They have to be able to infiltrate the planet, gather as much cultural information as they can, work out how to like fix the problems by doing as little as possible so that you don't interfere with the natural course of evolution.
Do you engage in small, alterations here or there? Do you do, some sort of technological widget that causes something to happen that seems just natural? Do you, say, maybe if we happen to have a comet pass by at the right time, things will end up okay because the right people will freak out and the other folks won't, or people will take it as a sign of this, that, or the other thing, etc., etc. And, it could be a very sort of like, we have to investigate the culture and understand them enough in order to make these sort of little pokes here and there in order to get things done. Yeah, that could be kind of fun.
Mm-hmm. I do think that the writers always write themselves into a corner with this show a lot, because you have this generalized American idea to justify why an incredibly powerful, incredibly wealthy, incredibly resource-rich people are not doing anything about all of these problems in the world. And a lot of it comes down to, well, you can't help everyone. Things are complicated, etc., etc. But you've created a scenario in which these people have so much magic technology that, in fact, you could help everyone.
Yes. Every civilization that, doesn't have sci-fi TV show problems, we can go out and solve their biggest problems there, and maybe even some of their smaller ones they don't notice, but
like on Earth now, we would have a mass amount of logistical problems to solve. We are definitely producing enough viable food that we could say, like, end world hunger right the hell now if we chose to try to figure it out. But yes, you would have a massive amount of logistical operation to work out with that. In Star Trek world, they've solved the logistical problem.
Yeah, just beam everything everywhere. It's fine. We got, effectively infinite energy forever due to antimatter magic, I guess. And sometimes fusion. And batteries that, last for centuries, I guess, because, you sometimes run into, this Federation colony has been, our ruin or whatever has been here for decades, and lights still turn on. Hooray!
Yeah, this radio has just been going for thousands of years.
Yes. So apparently all of that is possible in the Star Trek tech. So, if we had, like, even a few items there, even if we couldn't reverse engineer it, just reproduce it, it would solve many major problems here on Earth and, rework the paradigm of how our society can operate. And there would be less people starving in various parts of the world because they'll have access to all the food they need.
Which I think is what ticks me off so much about both Prime Directive episodes and then the people going like, well, technically they could have done something. Because, like, these episodes are blatantly just a justification for why the U.S. doesn't need to do anything about starving people in other countries.
Yeah. It's like, oh, we could do something here. But we're going to pretend we can't.
Yeah. You want to feed everyone in Haiti? I don't know. Could that turn out bad somehow in some unspecified way that we aren't going to think about?
There'll be people who aren't dying randomly, due to the circumstances of their birth.
Or even in America. You want to feed everyone in America? I don't know.
It is always funny. It's like, well, why don't we solve our own problems in America first? Well, we aren't. So if we could, like, solve problems anywhere, maybe we should do that. It doesn't matter if it's in America or not. Anyway, I want to talk about medical ethics for a few moments.
Mm-hmm.
So, who gave Pulaski, the permission to operate on a small child for an optional surgery that is kind of, doing something horrible to her brain.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know how risky this is, but yeah, there's some very seedy consent issues happening here.
Mm-hmm.
There's not even an argument to be had. This is wrong. This is a non-consensual operation that you're doing for the supposed good of the culture.
Yes. So,
which happens a lot, That's how we've justified sterilizing people for generations.
This is horrific to me, and the fact that Pulaski, who in this episode is one of the most outspoken skeptics of the Prime Directive, who is very much a it's like, yeah, let's go and stop that plague on the planet, and let's stop the geological catastrophe. And only how it starts running into it's like sort of commitment to things here. When Picard's like, well, what about a war? Like, well, there's a whole different sort of set of circumstances there. So that's kind of a cheap argument for starters. But even still, she's very much the Prime Directive kind of sucks, guys. Maybe we should have some humanity here.
Yeah,
I know Worf, doesn't care, but the rest of us.
Then they always have an easy way to deal with this. Like, there would still be really dodgy consent issues, but you could argue that the Federation, respects people's autonomy enough that they will even give a certain amount of decision-making power to a small child, Like, we can explain stuff well enough, we respect people's autonomy, it's not the best, but given the fact that we cannot, reasonably contact this person's guardians.
Yeah.
You could, in fact, explain that this is something she's going to have to keep secret her entire life or be branded a crazy person.
Yes, and, we don't want you to be hurt, so you can keep this a secret, or we could do a thing that makes it so that you don't have to worry about that. And that will mean you don't remember your friend here, but it will make your life easier in the long run. And, well, the kid can then think about it for a little bit and make a decision, and you hope that they are able to follow, up if they do decide not to get their the memory erased. That they, do what they, are basically promising to do by doing that. Or, maybe they do want to be branded a crazy person. But and you just got to trust them, And
still dodgy as all get out, but, at this point too, you are still interfering with the natural cultural evolution of the planet, because a random thing happened and you're saying we need to take the memories of the random thing away. This is not that much different than saying this random girl saw a comet and then started a weird comet based religion and that influenced the planet.
There's a lot of things that come up later in various Star Trek where something sort of accidentally happens, and sometimes they're good about, let's, quote, fix our divot, as they say. And other times it's like, oh no, this is the worst thing ever. We need to try to cover this up and, go super invasive. And I do kind of respect that in I think it's next season, they basically try to repeat this memory erasure thing on a guy, and it just doesn't work. And they're like, oh, we're just sort of taking away this tool now, in order to basically, showcase that maybe things aren't so easy here, guys.
let's erase the memory. Oh, darn. Yeah. Our trick doesn't work. Shit.
And it's just, I don't know. I like the idea that they, even if you do, interact with the society as minimally as possible, that, you are going to have some impact on them in some fashion. And, sometimes they are not going to be aware of what that impact is. Maybe you have a whole episode where there's a situation on a planet and, the Enterprise crew is not beaming down. They're not doing any sort of infiltration stuff, but they're doing things completely from space, and they're altering the ionosphere or something like that. Let's say, stuffing that this Iron Age civilization is unable to comprehend or interact with directly, and meanwhile, on the surface, we, sort of cut over, and it's like, oh, here's someone who has, put together a rudimentary telescope, and they're spotting some sort of weird, new moon that's very small, but it seems to pass over every 90 minutes or so. That's kind of curious. What does this mean? And you can have a whole drama about, what does it mean when a new moon shows up in the sky? Because, that's not a thing that happens. Mm-hmm. And, you could have a very interesting sort of, I guess, either main plot or side plot of just the people on the planet, dealing with this weird thing that's happened. And the people on the ship never find out about it. And so they don't have any sort of moral dilemmas one way or the other. But it does still show that, by just being anywhere near this planet, you can have an impact. And that's kind of a reasonable sort of thing to have, to demonstrate or, to show.
Mm-hmm. I think it would be an interesting one to do any of this from the other perspective. You could do a whole thing that's just like with this weird stuff happening on the planet, and you're like, why is this Star Trek? And then at the end, it's like, oh, here's a picture of the thing that spawned this entire discussion.
Yes.
Oh, look, it's the Enterprise.
Yeah, and they're shooting a beam thing. Cool. We know what it is. The locals don't. I do appreciate in actually Strange New Worlds this in the second season they have an episode where there's some time travel involved, and so some of the characters end up on 21st century Earth for a little bit. And, it's like, oh, here's a picture of a Romulan warbird. Mm-hmm. There's other context here. I don't want to do some spoilers here, but it's very much it's like, we, the audience, recognize.
Theorist. Yeah, sure.
Head scratcher here. Yeah. Yeah. I want more stuff like that. Less memory erasing for, small children, because that's just horrific to me.
Yeah, that's pretty awful. And Pulaski shouldn't be into this.
Yes. Maybe Pulaski, is using this as a cover for her, distaste of the Prime Directive. It's like, all right, I'll follow orders and, try to make a minimum impact in order to please Picard here or something like that. Or maybe she just likes erasing people's memories.
Or maybe because she, disagrees with the Prime Directive so much, she didn't.
Dun, dun, dun. So, yeah, Captain, I'll totally do this. Which then would explain why it doesn't work in the later episode.
Yeah. See, the memories are completely gone. She has to be unconscious until we leave, though, so you'll no way to check up on that.
Yeah. Could I even give the kid a drug or something like that makes it hard to sort of focus if she does wake up, so that she doesn't recognize Data if she wakes up before he drops her off. And so Data's like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't here, bye. Mm-hmm. So Pulaski, there's some maybe some interesting things going on here that we don't know the answers to.
I do think that just the amount of horrible ethical problems that you can find in any Prime Directive episode just shows you how ill-conceived as a storytelling device that whole thing became.
Yes. So maybe at some point they'll set down a Prime Directive Prime, a new version where it's like, all right, we're going to actually set down some rules and ethics about this and sort of make it clear what the whole package is, as opposed to we're just going to use this as a storytelling technique to avoid or justify certain things. Yeah, so codify it. That's allowed. Anyway, that's the big stuff I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I think we've gotten to most of our thingies, and
yes.
Everything's depressing, like it always is, because colonialism.
Yes. Dang it, colonialism.
And non-consensual surgeries. So anyway, now it's time for the Galaxy's favorite game show!
Woo! Hey everybody, welcome to the Galaxy's favorite game show. Our various contestants here are racking up various points, and we are ready to hand out some prizes, though I was sure that there was another contestant around here. but I just can't remember them right now. Anyway, our first prize is the Shut Up Wesley prize, which goes to Ensign Davies for a sudden reversal where Wesley gets to have him shut up and do the damn scan already. What does he win, Gepwin?
Wesley wins one of those little like joke keychains with the pre-recorded sound clips, so you can he can just have all of these things like in his little sound chips. So it's shut up, Wesley, and they hit the buttons like, you shut up, Wesley, shut up, Wesley, shut up, Wesley. This is what you sound like. Shut up, Wesley.
I like it. And maybe it'll be a big seller on Risa. Anyway, our second prize is the What Prime Directive prize, which goes to Data for apparently not realizing he should probably get that whole Prime Directive discussion sorted out weeks earlier than he did, because, the massive time skips here. What does he win, Gepwin?
Data wins a dictionary of Starfleet orders, because he's supposed to have all this memorized. He's basically virtually incapable of not following regulations and orders. So obviously the problem is nobody ever told him this.
It's like, Data, did you ever read the regulations book? No, why would I? No one told me to. Our third prize is the Medical Malpractice prize, which goes to Pulaski for performing invasive and medically unnecessary brain surgery on a child without the parents' consent. What does she win, Gepwin?
Pulaski wins. I mean, this is why she got kicked off the ship. She's being investigated as we speak. From this point on, it just takes them a while, because military bureaucracy.
Yes. They don't really highlight why she left, so that makes sense, actually.
Yeah, they don't even mention it. Just next season, the old doctor is back. Let's forget this entire episode ever happened.
Indeed. Our final prize for today is the Good Talk prize, which goes to the command crew for trying to sort out the right and wrong of the Prime Directive, having various different perspectives on it. Some of them which are a little absurd, Riker. What do they win, Gepwin?
I think they win a door lock on this stupid room, because there's so many times where they should have just stayed in here and talked through the whole episode. You could have solved so many problems that way.
Yes.
This is one of those, you're not leaving until we figure this out scenarios.
Picard might get testy about the whole thing, but, he's locked in there too, so he has to deal. Anyway, that's all I got here for this week, Gepwin. Our various contestants are, who were they again?
Thank you for joining us, whoever all of you are, and we're going to go while Zix can still remember the outro. Thank you for joining us on the Galaxy's favorite game show!
Woo! I'm lost! Yeah.
So, next time...
So, do you like geometry?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, I liked doing geometric proofs in high school.
Well, do you like three-dimensional objects that are regular and have 6 sides?
That would be what would that? Septagon? That's 7, isn't it? Sectagon?
Oh, that's a three-dimensional object, Yeah,
isn't three-dimensional hedron
cube? 6 sides?
Cube.
Yep.
Yeah, so sectahedron.
maybe big ones. They're larger than the Enterprise. Filled with cyborgs.
Yeah, sectahedrons filled with cyborgs. Sounds better that way.
And maybe we have a prominent letter in this next episode too.
The next episode we get the thing that I think is kind of funny, because even the episode agrees that they're shoehorning this in. So we get Q Who, which carries on the tradition of naming any episode with Q in it Q something.
Except Tapestry.
Yeah. I know. Couldn't think of anything. Something about loom,
question?
but replace it with a Q. Cume.
I guess there's also Death Wish. But, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't
Queen
last,
Wish.
but we're still doing it as of now.
Yes. The trend
You know,
continues.
this one barely has Q in it.
Yeah, he's a taunter. It's a bit more of a Encounter and Farpoint sort of remix, you know, that he's present, he's a threat,
Yeah.
but he's not the main focus of most of the episode.
Yeah, Q's in it, and Guinan's in it, and, you know, I can't think of anything else important that shows up. I don't think anything in this episode really affects stuff later.
Well, I think there's like a scene where Riker opens up a drawer and there's like a baby inside.
Yeah,
That's
and everyone
kinda
tries
weird.
to forget that.
Yeah.
Everyone tries really hard to forget that.
Well, I thought it was interesting at the time, yeah.
So yeah, this is the first appearance of the Borgs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so not the Borgs. They don't figure out the Borg until basically First Contact.
Kind of, yeah. I will say that there might be a good reason for that in universe, that the Borg are still evolving, that they are still, you know, changing over time, and so the Borg of this point in time being radically different than some of the Borg that come later kind of makes sense when you think about that as sort of a possibility, because, you know, suddenly you know, we don't do this, or we do this now, and, you know, this behavior change is now taken over. You know, it's adapting to changing circumstances.
Yeah, you could definitely follow a lot of stuff through to how humanity's encounters with the Borg shaped the Borgs.
Mm-hmm. Or perhaps encounters with folks that we never have met so far. Or maybe they've assimilated some technology and it's like, maybe we should change our paradigm slightly to be more adaptable, or more, you know, prone to survival, or more able to assimilate things. It's like, you know, there's a lot you can sort of do once you sort of, you know, let go of the Borg have to be one thing and one thing only.
Mm-hmm. So that's going to be soon. The other interesting way to talk about the Borg is to say, what do H.R. Geiger and Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future have in common?
Is it little arm dealies?
Yeah, little
Yes.
arm dealies. So anyway, this is gonna be one of the most influential episodes we get. Nominates for 3 Emmys, wins 2 Emmys, introduces the most iconic Star Trek race villain in the history of the franchise.
Mm-hmm. It's like, you know, Klingons are up there, but, you know, they're just behind these guys.
Gives us some weird hints of Guinan's backstory.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, with the whole, I'm going to put my hands up and that's going to mean something, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose. They need to stop doing that. My God. Anyway. So yeah, that's next time. We get Borgs, we get Qs, we get Guinans. It's a good time, except for the Enterprise where people, you know, die.
Yes. Now, well, only a few people die, and we realize, that there is actually like a toilet on the ship, because the Borg run off with it.
No, with the bathroom.
Our only bathroom that we've ever showed on the Enterprise. They've taken it. Next time on Watchers of Tomorrow. What is this? Some sort of cube? You have been listening to Watchers of Tomorrow, a podcast on science fiction media. Find and follow Watchers of Tomorrow on Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Spreader, Digital Podcast, and perhaps many more to come. If you enjoy our podcast, make sure to subscribe for more. And where possible, make sure to rate your experience or leave us a review. You may find Gepwin on youtube.com/Gepwin and Twitter @Gepwin. You may find me, Dr. Isix, on youtube.com/Dr. Isix and Twitter @IsixLP. Music is Waveform and Mori's Principle, both by DRKRN. You can also check out the Watchers of Tomorrow Discord channel. Make sure to share the experience with your friends, family, enemies, and alien overlords. If you feel you are suffering from transporter syndrome, please be aware that the next time you step off the transporter, that you that is now no longer exists.